introduce prescribed fire, good fire, back on the landscape.
Prescribed fires on the San Juan National Forest near Bayfield were conducted as part of a much larger and long-term initiative called the Vallecito Piedra Project. It spans 80,000 acres from around Vallecito Reservoir to the Piedra River drainage.
Portions of it, about 10,000 acres of that 80,000 acres, is ponderosa pine and gamble oak, which normally would have fire in it every 8 to about 30 years.
Naturally occurring fires occurred in these type of forests for hundreds of years. Lightning strikes, and surface fire was allowed to move across the landscape.
In the early 1900s, government policy decreed that all wildfires needed to be put out. And so we've interrupted that natural fire cycle.
We've done 100 or so years worth of fire suppression, and so that is partly what's led to our situation that we have, not only in Forest Lakes neighborhood, but in all of Southwest Colorado.
And with that exclusion of fire, we have thicker brush, we have more small trees than we would have had in the historic past there.
So we're talking about the understory underneath a ponderosa pine stand where that gamble oak is overgrown, where the surface fuels, the needle cast, is kind of built up to a standard where it's, anywhere from 6 to 8 inches, maybe even higher in some places, where it hasn't seen any kind of fire, any kind of disturbance. And that's what we're calling hazardous fuels. So we want to reduce that buildup. And the only way we do that is with prescribed fire.
AJ, moving.
The Vallecito Piedra Project calls for prescribed fire, logging, mastication, and other fuel reduction methods. This work can pay big dividends if there's a wildfire here in the future.
If it's lower fuel loading, the fire behavior will be less intense and the fire spread might be a little slower.
A smaller, slower moving fire gives firefighters a better chance to stop it before it can threaten things like the major power line for Archuleta County, the Highway 160 corridor, and private property in neighborhoods like Forest Lakes.
It's a forest health issue as well. The trees that are remaining have less competition and tend to be a lot healthier once we've removed some of the trees, either from timber harvest or mortality from prescribed fire.
Ponderosa pine is a very fire-dependent ecosystem. It thrives on low-intensity surface fire.
Prescribed burning is really some of the best fire mitigation we can do. If the Forest Service and local fire departments can capitalize on good weather windows and they feel confident that they can do some prescribed burning, I'm all for it.
Aerial firing, Bravo Tree, you copy?
It allows them to control the fire on their terms and not so much react to a situation that's out of control.
Probably the biggest challenge that we have is that the largest factor in whether we're going to be successful or not is also one of the least predictable, which is the weather.
Take it up!
This spring, the weather cooperated and about 2,400 acres was added to the tally of treated land. In the fall, if conditions are right, they'll be back to add more. Of course, to keep up with nature, in 5 or 10 years, they'll need to put fire on this land again.
So it's a constant cycle of putting fire on the landscape to keep up with that accumulation of pine needles, of small branches, of larger branches.
We need to learn to live with fire. It is a part of the landscape. It has been since before people were here. So we have to be willing to live with prescribed fire so that we don't have huge wildfires.
The prescribed burns are critically important. I also will say that when you look at it, when we did the Vallecito Piedra one, I went down south and I was driving back up here and you can see the smoke plume from it. And then you compare that smoke plume to the vast amount of forest that you're looking at on that hillside.
It's a huge task, no doubt. Protecting the trees we love, our homes, and the watersheds and infrastructure we count on will take ongoing work and collaboration. All of us doing what we can, bit by bit. That's what the San Juan National Forest will be doing with the Vallecito Piedra Project for years to come, creating a healthier, fire-adapted forest, acre by acre.